Greetings my friends, how are you doing? This is Zed from Zed Outdoors. I hope you're having an awesome day. So today is a very big day for this channel. So rewind back about 3.5 years ago, from the point of this video that you're watching now, I first got into bushcraft. Being a complete urbanite, a complete townie, I got into bushcraft. I done a 7-day course, which was the first introduction I really had into wild camping. And from there I proceeded to do wild camps with friends, with myself, my friends that want to hang out with me, and various other people. And it's been a fantastic journey. And when you first start out in bushcraft, a lot of you can maybe relate to this, that you're really refining your basic skills. So you're able to go and find a suitable location to wild camp in. So even if you do find a woodland, you find the right part of the woodland to wild camp in. You make sure you hone your skills in trying to set up a tarp, in setting up your hammock or bivy bag, whatever it is you're going to be sleeping in. You learn the fundamentals of fire making, of cooking, fire management. You learn the fundamentals of hygiene, of how to use a toilet out in the woods, and a whole paraphernalia of skills that give you the confidence to go out in your environment that's local to you and survive and have a great time. And so fast forward kind of 3 years from that stage, I can confidently say that I'm quite comfortable in doing the absolute basics when I go out. Now don't get me wrong, you're always improving your skills, you're always kind of refining methods and techniques and so forth. But in terms of a general grounding, I would say 3 years fast forward from when I first started out, I can quite confidently say I'm very comfortable in doing that. Now, especially over the past year, but even a little bit before that, I realised even then that I'm at a point where I'm quite comfortable in setting up the basics of a camp and doing it safely in an outdoor environment. And I realised, especially as of a year ago, that I really want to go a lot deeper than that, because this is kind of surface level skill set, and a lot of people can stay at that, and that's all great. But for me personally, I want to go a lot deeper than that. I want to go beyond kind of the basic skills of just setting up a tarp. And so in order for me to do that, I realised that for me personally, I had to set up a base camp. Now a base camp, the kind of slight difference between that and just a generic wild camp that you do in the woodland is it's a permanent place. It's a permanent place that you go to, that you start building on over time. And eventually you get to a point where it's a self-sustaining environment and a place for you to wild camp in. Now the reality is, when I look at myself, especially being in the UK, where we're technically a small country when you compare it to a country like Canada or Northern Scandinavia or the US and so forth, land is a massive issue. Especially me living in London, it's like near impossible, you know. And so finding land to do that in private land has been extremely difficult. You could technically do it in public land, but it's very risky, especially here in the UK. So I've been on an endeavour to find private access, and fast forward, a dear friend of mine who owns Woodland, it's about 90 minutes for me from outside London, so that's the only kind of slight drawback, but I'm not complaining. It's great to even get out of London. I always need an excuse to get out of London. So it's about 90 minutes from outside of London, but I've been kindly given permission to use their woodland, which is privately owned. Now I'm going to be showing you around in a minute. We're going to do a quick recce, but just to let you know that this video that you're watching now is going to be kicking off something that I've been working towards for the past 3 years. Like I said, I've acquired some basic skills. Now I want to move on from that and go much deeper. And by that I mean things like building a permanent shelter, using kind of the environment around me and materials and so forth. With that, my intention with a lot of stuff that I build is stuff that I've collected myself and foraged myself. So materials from woods, from cordage. I want to make my own cordage, using kind of the materials that are around me, and so forth. And even with the fireplace, the fire reflector is something I made myself and it's permanent. Even the kind of pot hanger, I may go to someone's forge and forge that. So the goal is that starting as of today, as of you're watching this video, I want to move forward and really start to build a permanent base camp. Now there's a lot of people on YouTube building base camps, a lot of good friends of mine, and a lot of inspiration I've taken. So already, I'm starting to build up a picture in my head of the type of thing that I want to build. Now here's the thing, there's a couple of things I want to add on to this. I want to ideally build this base camp and everything within it from things that I've foraged and made myself. Now that's going to be an ongoing process. For example, cordage that I've just mentioned a minute ago. I might need to initially just use something like paracord, but really ideally moving forward I want to be making my own cordage. like I said, when I start building things like clothing and things like that, I really want to go quite deep with this. So my goal is, as I move forward down the line, I want to start processing hides, and from hides make my own clothing. So kind of you're touching on primitive skills here, and obviously all of these things kind of overlap. A lot of things that I want to kind of attempt to make at. So for example, in this environment here in this woodland, there's a lot of flint. And I guess that's a kind of a benefit of living in the UK, so we've got access to a lot of flint. So from flint I want to delve into flint napping and so forth. So there's a whole paraphernalia of things I want to kind of try. And needless to say, you're going to be sharing that journey with me. I'm going to be showing you what I do. You're going to be part of this journey. We're all going to learn together. Now, you know, if you watch me for any period of time, I'm the first one to say I'm not an expert, not in the slightest. So the one thing I am slightly have a knack at is getting in touch with experts in building relationships. Hence why you see a lot of tutorials on my channel. Now, that's going to continue, but now that's going to start tying into this Basecamp. So for example, the cordage analogy that I use. So I'm going to be seeing a couple of friends of mine to learn natural cordage, and I'll be recording tutorials with them to share with you. The goal here is not I'm building it for me, I'm building it so I share it with you. We all learn together. I get ideas of you, I pass ideas over to yourself, and like I said, we share this as a learning experience together. It's a nice big happy hippie family. And what we can do with that is then maybe you might try elements yourself. You might be inspired to go out and try making your own cordage and so forth and so forth. So today marks that day where we're going to begin that journey. You're going to see a lot of videos where I'm going to be doing wild camps here, we're going to be building stuff. I'm going to break it down to little tutorials and so forth. And over time now, over the coming weeks, months, and even possibly years, you're going to see this kind of evolve and build out into something. And this is the other thing I want to add, that this stuff takes time. It takes a lot of time. I don't have that skill set where I can just build everything straight away. I've got to acquire these skills, and that's one of my motivations for building a base camp, because it now forces me to learn skills, for example, like cordage making, and it forces me to implement those skills and test those out. Because if that cordage doesn't work when I've made my shelter, I'm the one that's going to suffer. So it's kind of putting me under a good type of pressure to learn and making sure those skills are at a good competency level. The other thing I want to add on is materials. Now, you've got to bear in mind we're in the UK. We have very limited resources. We don't have like thousands and thousands of acres of untouched woodland. We just don't have that, and especially where I'm at now. It's a decent sized woodland, but it's not huge. And so I only have limited resources. So the reality is I will need to pull in resources from other woodlands nearby, from even other parts of the UK. But the idea is I want it to be stuff that nonetheless is naturally foraged either by myself or through someone else. The other thing I want to stress, this is a privately owned woodland, so I have full permission to be here. So anything you're seeing here that me doing, I'm doing with full permission of the owner of the woodland. Also in terms of wood, this is a managed woodland. So any wood that you see me using for building has already been processed naturally and responsibly. I'm not taking anything down that I don't need to. And in terms of firewood, there is firewood everywhere in this woodland, so I'm never going to have an issue with that. So there you go, that's my journey beginning for the Bushcraft Basecamp. I'm really, really delighted and happy for you to be part of that journey as well. We're in this together, like one big hippie family. And like I said, you know, this is going to be a two-way thing. So if you've got ideas and stuff like that you want to point my way, then that'll be awesome. So the next thing I want to do is I want to show you a quick recce, just a kind of a little bit of a scan of the woodland here, so you get a bit of a feel for it. Obviously you'll see it in a lot more detail in future videos, but I thought I'd give you a quick scan. Now after this video, I'm going to stay on and I'm going to do a wild camp. Now I'm going to record it as a separate video. That's going to be a very simple wild camp, more just to kind of acclimatise to this environment. So like I said, stay tuned for that. If that video's already out by the time you're watching this, then check the link below in the description and you'll be able to see that. So let's do a quick recce of the woodland. So here we go. So on the perimeters of the woodland there's adjacent farmlands, which is good, so obviously it gives me a lot of privacy. Now predominantly, let's actually go for a bit of a walk. Predominantly in this woodland in terms of trees is oak. There's a lot of oak here, predominantly oak, which is a good thing for the deadwood, which is obviously fantastic for fires. There's also a little bit of beech, birch, I think sycamore, from what I remember is here as well. There's predominantly oak. Now there's a lot of deadfall here, if you can just see here. Now it's either come down for primarily two reasons, either naturally and through storms, or secondly, this is actually a coppiced woodland, meaning it's being managed properly. So nothing I don't really need to take down myself. Now the other thing that's here, which is pretty much everywhere, is bramble. It is everywhere you look, literally as far as the eye can see. So that's going to be perfect for cordage making. There's also bracken. So there's litterings of bracken everywhere as well. So it's not, I don't think it's really mature enough to use as bedding. But we'll have to just wait and see. But there's just tons and tons and tons of bramble, which is fantastic for cordage making. The ground here is predominantly clay stroke soil. There's a lot of leaf litter here, but it's kind of predominantly clay. It's a beautiful woodland, absolutely stunning. So it's that time of year now. It's a beautiful day today, actually, really, really hot. It's a good thing I'm in the shade. Now another thing we've got here, as I mentioned before, we have got litterings of flint. If I try and see any on the floor, I'll show you, which is going to be fantastic for kind of flint napping or whatnot, so that'll be really good. Like I said, a huge trees just come down naturally through the storms and whatnot. There you go, you see little bits of flint in there. Alright, so flint's not an issue once you dig through the topsoil. And there you go. So like I said, it's a beautiful woodland. There is a kind of road, I'm trying to remember now, I think it's down that way, it's about 200 metres down that way. But fortunately you can just about hear it. But hey, it's the UK, we don't live in thousands and thousands of miles of untouched woodland. And there you go, there's a lot of resources here already. That should help. And because there's a lot of kind of trees that have been responsibly taken down through woodland management, that should hopefully provide me enough materials for shelter building. The leaf canopy is out in abundance at the moment, it's that time of year. So there you go. So there you go, that was a very quick tour of this woodland. Needless to say, you're going to see it in a lot more detail as you move forward in the coming videos over the coming weeks and months. A couple of other things I forgot to mention. Water. Currently there's no water supply here whatsoever. There's no streams, no rivers, nothing. But in a very, very near future, my friend who owns a woodland, they're going to be actually putting in a proper water supply, as in from a tap. Because they do some other stuff here in the woodland, so it makes it easier for them. So that's going to take care of that issue. Up until then, I'm going to have to bring water in, but hopefully that shouldn't be for too long. And in terms of the building out of the base camp, like I said, even the shelter is not going to be the be all and end all. I'm not going to spend like 2 years building a shelter. I want a shelter to be pretty cool. I'm doing already a lot of studying on that. So what I want to do is build a shelter, but then use that shelter as the base, to really treat it as a proper base camp, to then go out and do some stuff where, for example, working with the seasons throughout the year and through the months of the year, I want to be doing a lot of foraging. I want to put together a natural first aid kit. I want to put down natural supplements and oils and all sorts of stuff from foraging. So foraging is something I'm going to be big into. And with that, I'm going to make tinctures and whatnot. Also looking at setting up a dehydrator to either smoke or dehydrate foods and things that I forage. So a whole paraphernalia of things that I really want to go. The point I'm making is I don't just want to focus on the shelter and the kind of surface level stuff such as a fire lay and whatnot, a fire deflector and all of these things. These things are important, so I'm going to build them out properly, but really my goal with this whole base camp and everything that I'm doing here is to go much, much deeper than that, to really get in one with my environment, to really learn the skills, to really understand how to live in a very kind of natural way, foraging things from around me, making things myself. So my ultimate goal, and it's going to take a long time to get there, but my ultimate goal is I have the skills to do everything myself, from making cordage, making shelters, making a fire, putting a fire together, foraging food and medicines and all of this stuff, even to the extent of having the skills to make my own clothing and process hide and things like that, and make sinew. So it's really going to quite a deep level, but obviously this takes a long time to develop those skills and really kind of nurture those skills, but I'm in no rush. I want to have some fun while doing this. So like I said before, this is a two-way thing, so I'm doing it in a way where you learn with me as I learn. So I'm even going to have some experts from time to time come here, visit me and do some stuff here, and most of it, as much as possible, I'd like to capture on video for you to see. Also, needless to say, and I've said this many times before, there's a lot of stuff I share on Instagram I don't share on YouTube. There's a lot of pictures, there's a lot of little video snippets I don't share here on YouTube that I share on Instagram because it's just a lot easier. So if you're not following me on Instagram, why? Follow me on Instagram. Just search for Zed Outdoors. The moment you see a dodgy looking Asian bloke with a big nose, that's it, you know you found me. So follow me on there. There's a lot of stuff I'm sharing on there that I'm not sharing on YouTube. And it's easier to facilitate discussion on there as well. But YouTube and Instagram is really primarily where I'm sharing a lot of my stuff. So there you go. A lot of talking in this video from me. But it was just to set a tone for this video, really marking the journey of something quite special for me and for you as well. So I'm going to stay on to do a wild camp. I'll do that in a separate video. Look out for that video. The video's already out when you're watching this. Check the link in the description below. There should be a video there. If it's not out yet, hold tight and it'll be out very soon. So I hope you enjoyed this video. A lot more to come, obviously, with this base camp that I want you to be part of, that I'm going to share with you. And as always, let me know in the comments below if you've got any thoughts and suggestions or just a feedback in general. But it's something I'm really looking forward to. So until the next time, I hope whatever you're doing, you have a blessed day, a blessed week ahead. This is Zed from Zed Outdoors. Peace out.